only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
I should like to help everyone if possible.
Welcome. It's time for another exciting episode. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning, Travis. Good morning, everybody. So this week we're going to talk more business plan.
Business plan. It's time.
It is time. We're just within 100 days of the rest of the year. I think it's like 102 days at the day that we're recording this, but basically about to go into the fourth quarter. And this is really a great opportunity to take a look at your business from last year, kind of measure what was happening, what changes that you should be making or need to be making or want to make, and re-implementing and strategizing for 2020. What strategies are you going to put in place? What tactics are you going to put in place? Make adjustments to? What mindset adjustments are you going to make? That's our topic today.
That's a good one. I did my class earlier this week on pre-planning for your business planning. Catchy, huh?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So that's pretty good, but because you can't just go make a business plan helter-skelter. You got a lot of review to do,
Exactly.
And so we presented that and encourage agents to go back and say, here's what I do well, here's what I don't do well, and build off that plan by adding and or subtracting.
Exactly.
I think maybe people forget that, right?
They do. And question, so when you were talking about that, was it all strategies and tactics? Because personally, I think part of that is looking in the mirror and a little self-check on, mindset and attitude, and if that's actually taken into account as well. I think most people skip that part and either make an assumption, I don't need it, or maybe I don't need it, I don't want it, or there doesn't need to be an adjustment there, and go straight into here was my business, here's how I measured it, this is what happened, and go into those details.
Did you sneak a peek at my class from last week?
I did not.
All right, you nailed it. That's one of the big things. We talked about mindset and how we look at things. I presented how I have this incredible knack for focusing on the negative, and it can be crippling. And it wasn't too long ago that one day I said, this is terrible. Look at all these things I didn't get done this week. And I said, this isn't right. I can't live like this. I go, what did I get done this week? Woo, what a game changer. Right. I mean, it immediately pepped me up and made me go, man, I was productive this week. This isn't about what we don't get done on our to-do list. It's what we do get done, which is driven by our business plans, right, and is important. And I'll go, you segue very nicely into the simplest business plan of all. I don't know if you people who are listening, you're not going to see what I'm holding up, but maybe on the video you will, which is the 4 aspects of business planning. Why? Why are you in this business? Why are you doing what you're doing? Goals. What do you need to achieve, typically financially, to support that why? And then the last 2, which are activities and tasks. And I just gloss over those real quick because I want to speak to what you were talking about, which is, although people talk about goals a little bit, it's usually the top 2, why and goals, that people just want to gloss over.
Right.
Why? I don't need a why. I'm here for money. Well, that's great and all, but it's more important than people realize.
And I might ruffle a couple feathers here, because we do talk about the why.
You never do that.
No, me never. We do talk about the why, but I want to emphasize a little bit to everybody, and me included. This was it was funny coming into the office this morning. This was the thought process that I was thinking about our podcast today, and the why not. So often we talk about making sure we do our vision boards and things like that and creating our whys, but when we're doing a gut check and really checking in on ourselves and what's going on, do we ever think about the why not and why am I not doing this? And not just saying that, but really being honest. There's insecurities in all of us to a certain degree, and a lot of the why not is just a simple, we can break it down to fear, but it's truly there's an insecurity of, hey, I'm going to fail at this, or I'm not going to be able to do it, or I don't, I don't believe in myself, so I don't do it.
You know what that is? Lack of preparation.
In some cases, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Lack of planning, not knowing what to do. And once you get those resolved, it strips down a lot of that fear and intimidation and allows you to act and be as successful as you want to be.
Very valid point, and I like to relate it to baseball and Little League, because coached Little League for quite some time, and you're right, when you're out there on the field, a lot of it is all that prep work and practice that you put in. You're prepped for game day, and it may not feel like you're prepped for game day. There's still the butterflies and things that are going on, but ultimately, when you're playing at that position and the ball gets hit to you, you've practiced it and prepped enough. It becomes kind of like almost automatic that the body does what it needs to do to react to the situation. So I like that lack of preparation.
Yeah, I mean the boredom, right? We're doing the same thing we did yesterday. Yeah, actually, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yep.
It's called preparing. Right? It's Darren Hardy. You know what? I can beat anyone at anything because I know I can do anything more consistently and over a longer period of time than anyone else can. That's his having conquered monotony and boredom, aka running a business.
Absolutely. So question one, are you practicing?
Yeah.
Are you role playing?
Super important.
There's other parts of our business that are involved in the day-to-day activities, but that's one of the primary things. Are you out there on a regular basis practicing what you are supposed to be doing in this business and doing in this industry? Every other profession, every professional athlete out there doesn't become a professional athlete just based off of raw talent alone. So there is practice and preparation. It may not look like it, but there's practice and preparation on a daily basis. And I think it's a key thing to explain, that's actually what they're spending most of their time on.
What's that?
Practice and preparation.
Who?
Professional athletes.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
True.
They're playing a game once a day or once a week. If you take football into it, if we're using football as an example, they're playing on Sundays,
Yep.
but they're practicing basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday to get ready for the one game on Sunday.
Practicing 5 times as much as they're playing.
Exactly.
That's a great analogy. How many of us are practicing 5 times as much as we're sitting in front of a prospect? Can I steal that from you?
Absolutely.
Oh man, that's good.
Any other thoughts on the why?
Get one. Figure it out. Why are you here? Yeah, we're all here for money, but what does that money represent to you? And don't gloss over it. Too many people,
Yes.
I don't know, maybe they feel it's hokey and I don't know, there seems to be a discomfort with it. You got to get over that. It's too powerful and helps you with your mindset. It's the first step.
All right. Well, let's talk goals.
Goals. Got to have a target.
Step one, goal. Okay, so we have to have a target. Elaborate a little bit more on that and what your thought process is there. Is it kind of because again, I go back to sports. As you know, I'm an avid runner, cyclist, and other things, and one of the things that I can always go back to is the Ironman. I went into that race not knowing how to finish it and what was the easiest way for me to accomplish it, and it was one day at a time. Went out there and found somebody else who had done it a lot of times and went to them and said, hey, what was the plan to accomplish this?
That's great. That's like reverse engineering right there.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
So it was like day 1, do this. Day 2, do this. Day 3, and it was broken down by exactly what to do every day. Reverse engineered it from the actual race day back of what my daily plan was.
Such an awesome analogy, and I wish I could speak to it like you can, but I'm only half an Ironman, so never quite made the whole Ironman. But I know the experience. I was a runner also, and it's you look at, hey, I want to run a 5K, and I've never run before. Boy, we all wish we could do that tomorrow, right? No, that's not the way it works. You got to set that plan out, and you've got to build on that. Maybe you get a half a mile your first time, you
Exactly.
know? That's okay. But that's a great analogy of, hey, I can't even run. I can't run around a track on a field twice. And if you put that plan together, within 8 weeks, you're running 5K.
Absolutely.
So look at the power behind that. Transfer that over to your business. Put those steps together, put those activities together.
So I would add to that most people don't, and one of the reasons why is because of time. So Travis made a very good point. Hey, this is going to be an 8-week commitment. Well, guess what, everybody? 8 weeks from now will still be 8 weeks, whether we plan or train or don't. So
you can either be disappointed in 8 weeks, or you can be running a 5K.
But that day will still be here. It's coming, whether we like it or not. Just like 2020 is coming. And for some of us, we're going to look back at 2019 and say, hey, it didn't work out the way we wanted it. And the real question is that going to reflect forward and and interrupt what you're looking for in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, we set our goals, and we always hope to achieve them. But I'll go back to what I stated earlier: is get through that year. Hopefully, we met our goals, and we can adjust, and we can take another step the next year. But if you haven't made those goals, take a look back.
Yep.
What did I do? What did I accomplish this year? What went well? Let's double down on that next year, and maybe we'll have a doubly productive year this upcoming year. But without first setting that target, you're not taking that first step, and you're never running your 5K.
Exactly. All right. So what is the goal? Once we get past the goals, then activities.
Yeah. What are you doing to create your business, right? So I think here in our office, Remax Premier Realty, we talk about the funnel, or we talk about how many lines you have in the water. Those are your activities. What are you doing to grow your business? So that can be, I always go to geographical farming. I was a geographical farmer. That could be door knocking. That could be in accountability this morning. We were talking about, do you have specific knowledge or an in with an industry? And are you taking advantage of that? Do you know attorneys that you could speak to in a way that they understand?
Home builders.
Doctors, right?
Exactly.
Certain group of people, baby boomers. Maybe you understand what they're doing. So that could be a activity. You say, I'm going to try and take advantage of that opportunity there. And that would be one of your, here at Remax, we think 4, give or take, is a good number. You never want to have all your eggs in one basket. And, we never know when a farm's going to pay off versus the door knocking versus the contacting the attorney. So if you have all 3 going on at once, you hedge your bets and have the best opportunity of meeting your goals.
Now, what do you say to the question of, hey, I like all of this, but it honestly just sounds overwhelming. This sounds like this is, I'm overwhelmed with the whole thing. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. So ultimately, we don't do anything.
Yeah, that's a big problem, certainly in this industry. And back to your analogy, you got to break it down to the individual steps. So we're kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves here. But once you've chosen your activities, don't think about what's involved. Just say, where do I have an opportunity, or what do I think I can do well, and choose those activities. And then of course that next step is getting into the tasks. What do I need to do on a day-to-day basis to make this happen? And then when you break that out, it's like, oh, tomorrow all I have to do is go deliver 100 flyers based on the goals that I'm setting. I can do that. Boy, that's attainable.
Yep.
There you go, step 1.
I'll add to that one of the things that I always like to think and keep in the back of my mind is that we're closer. 2 things, actually. First of all, that we're closer than we think we actually are. So too often we think that the next step in this business, or I'm trying to get from 100,000 to 150,000, for example, that's really so far away, but that we're actually closer to that, or we're closer to that next deal, or that next transaction, or that next client than we actually think. And when we're looking at it and we're so close to the problem, it looks like it's like huge. But when you take a step back and look at it, it's like, that 100th home is actually really just right around the corner. So I too often we get caught up in We were having a conversation earlier today in role play, and we were talking about the difference between being okay, being good, and being great. And we were talking about the examples of different agents that we felt were mega producers versus agents that were average producers. And when we took a step back, the numbers were really like 1 or 2 transactions different per month, which really isn't that big of a deal. But when you looked at it from the mega producer to the average, it's like, oh, well, they're doing just so much more. In reality, they really weren't.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's, oh, shoot, I can make an adjustment in my business to do an extra deal a month. When you break it down that way, it's not so bad.
Yep. Taking the action one step at a time.
Yeah. What else did we want to talk about? We wanted to break it up, activities, tasks, putting together a business plan. So I'm getting ready. We're 100 days going into the ending the year right now, and I want to get ready for 2020. What does that look like to you as far as how you would, we talked about reverse engineering, we talked about our why, our goals, our activities, and our tasks, but let's put the whole thing together and kind of how that would look to you.
Oh, that's a lot, but I'll start. Well, I think reverse engineering is number one. Let's look at what are we doing, what's effective. If you've been spending 50% of your time in one activity and you look back and in the last 12 to 18 months, you don't have anything to show for it or very little, you might want to reconsider that. You know, of course, there are exceptions. There are long-term prospects like farming, and you need to understand that that takes time. But we need to look at the value we're getting out of the time we spend on particular tasks. So you got to do that assessment first. Then you got to look at those activities. If you're going to replace any, you're going to remove them or bring on new ones. You got to decide how you're going to do that. Reflect on things you've seen that other people are doing that you thought, oh, wow, that really is right up my alley. I never considered that. Get those put in place so you have your activities, and then right back to looking at the tasks at hand. You know, what do I need to do on a day-to-day basis to make this happen? And I just think that's the most important that so many of us miss, and we get overwhelmed and then we freeze, you know? And then 6 months later, we're standing in the same shoes and we're talking about the one deal we got that fell in our lap and how great we are. It's like, wait, you'd be at 6 right now with the minimal amount of effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I ask this question a lot. I don't know if you ask the question as well in consultations, but your numbers and measuring. Mm-hmm. Do you actually measure what's going on and what's happening? Because we talk about, hey, we need to take a look at this and make an adjustment and see if we've got anything, but sometimes having something like geographic farm, for example, does not necessarily mean that it equated to this many transactions this year. Sometimes this could be a geographic farm that we just started a year ago, and that measurement is different than a farm that you've been in for many years. Mm-hmm. That's just hey, you know, are people starting to get to know me? Is there activity going on? Am I getting phone calls? Am I getting opportunities? I think too often that we quit or we stop before, and really what we should be looking at is, hey, making an adjustment is what part of this is working, what part's not, what minor adjustments do we need to make, and also measuring against our competition. What's our competition doing? It's too often. So who is your competition and what do they do?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And that goes back to my comment about geographical farm. And we just know there's that period of time that you got to build into it. But there's also, it goes up and down like any other part of your business. And I know I had a conversation with an agent over the last few years, and one year she said, Travis, why am I farming? I've been farming for 30 years, and this year I got 0 deals out of my farm. I think I'm going to give it up. I said, no, you can't do that. The next year she said, Travis, you know where all my business came from? It came from my farm. So yeah, I mean, it's important that you consider that when you're making plans, and that you don't overlook the opportunity that may not be right there and obvious to you, and then drop something that has a lot of value to it.
Which, hence, why you need to have more than one system in place, and more than one business coming in from more than one place.
And you know, these are all great. Prospecting, number one, right? I mean, you've got to be spending 90% of your time on prospecting, because that's the livelihood, that's the lifeblood of this business. But some other things to consider when you're doing your business plan too is, how how's my business operate? Am I efficient behind the scenes? Am I taking full advantage of what's going on? So when we look at these things and we build these tasks, it's not just how many times am I going to touch somebody in each one of these areas that I've chosen to look at my business, but how am I operating? When I do meet that person, what do I do? Do I have a plan as to how I'm going to follow up with them? Do I have a plan how I'm going to make them a client for life? When I get that listing on my farm, do I have a plan for how I'm going to leverage it to the fullest? A lot of people I talk to, agents, oh yeah, no, I know what to do with listings. And I'm like, well, where's it written down? Well, no, I just, got a lot of experience.
It's in my head.
Yeah, it's in my head. I'm like, wow. I go, okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever gotten halfway through a listing and said, oh, I totally forgot to do that? Oh, that's all right, I'll do it next time.
Right.
And you do that 2 or 3 times in every listing, next thing you know, you've forsaken 10 wonderful leveraging opportunities to build your business or to better assist your client. So remember, building your business is having satisfied clients. So I hope you have a plan about how you're going to take care of your client so they go, Nestor, that's my boy. And they're going to refer you to their client, to their friends, and they'll want to use you again. So that's an important aspect. So even outside of prospecting, you look at our processes, write them down, don't miss anything. And it's getting back to monotony, right?
Right.
You're like, why am I checking this? Why did I write down, look the client in the eye? Well, I don't know, but at some point that must have occurred to you that you need to be reminded about that. That's the level of detail you need to go in your processes to ensure that you have a consistent business of how you operate for client satisfaction and fully leveraging your business.
And you mentioned that in the checklist for that, but there's a trickle down effect to that actually occurs even prior to, because in that example, you start missing things in the listing. Next thing you know, you're not even explaining these things in your listing presentation, and then all of a sudden, you're not even getting the opportunity anymore.
That's right.
Because you've forgotten these things, and then you're walking out of that presentation with, oh, I forgot to say this, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. And then when they don't call us back, we're wondering what happened.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people presented with these things like, oh, have you ever done this? Why don't you try putting together a system or a list for your business just to help you stay organized and stay on track? And people look at them and go, oh, this is silly. I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do that. Well, yeah, it's an example, and you need to build your own. We all do business a little bit differently.
Yep.
So, you need to put you into that system and what you feel is important, and it will help you build your business. And then most importantly, remember, these are living documents, right?
Right.
This isn't something that we just shelve and we just continue to use over and over and over again. No, I would venture to guess that every transaction, every other transaction, you're probably adjusting that list, saying, oh, what a great idea I saw over there. I'm gonna make sure I do that on my next transaction. But this one, every time I look at that one, I wonder about the value of it.
Right.
I'm taking that off my list.
Now, there's another edge to that sword as well, is we have a lot of disruptors in this business out there right now, where the new shiny greatest app or toy or whatever it may be the new silver bullet appears every single day in our industry, and too often they actually live at that 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning, 11 in the morning. So just some food for thought. That tends to take up a lot of our time nowadays. Don't let it, because Travis is right. We should be out there. What is the one most important thing? What is the second most important thing? What is the third most important thing? After that,
nothing else matters.
Yeah, if you're doing anything else on that list during that day, or spending the majority of your day doing 4 through whatever it is, we're building by coincidence.
Yeah, we do that. Sorry, I know we're trying to wrap up here. Do that because it's comfortable and it feels good, and it's like we can check something off our list, and we're moving forward. But you've probably experienced it. If you haven't, believe me, hit one of your big activities, make that call that you're concerned about making because you don't know what's going to be said on the other side. Believe me, it's not as big and scary as you think it is. And man, when you get that done, that little adrenaline rush, just got to get over that little hump.
Exactly.
And make things happen.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Looking forward to next week. Not sure what the topic is yet.
We'll come up with something good.
Well, yes, we will. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take
Happy
care.
Friday the 13th. Be
Happy-
careful out there.
Oh, yeah, Friday the 13th. Ooh.